That video is going to tank on your channel. Do you have the marketing plan book?
No.
No. Okay, perfect.
My audience is easy to rally.
That's what we're going to do.
I know I can do it.
And there she is.
Hi, Evan.
Anna has come up on a annual milestone with us here at Mover Makers, and I thought, hey, let's celebrate. Let's do an IG live together.
Yeah, thank you.
So how are you doing? What are you working through? How can I help or give some
Well,
feedback on?
you were just saying how it's nice to have some downtime, and I had some downtime I hadn't planned with COVID the last couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, it brushed me lightly, and I'm getting better. I had it pretty easy, but it made me have to lay down and stop working for a while, and I got so many new ideas and kind of some new perspective, more of a desire to connect with my audience and not always just be pushing out content all the time. So that led to a question I had for you today, because I've been wanting for a long time to do live events, and because of the situation with COVID, that's been really hard to plan, but it's looking good. And so I have trips planned to New York in May and London in August, and a little Norway in there. And I have a lot of fans in Norway. And I would like to start scheduling events. And because it's been like my business grew almost all of its growth, it just went crazy during lockdown. It's just not something I have experience with yet. And I know you do. And I was hoping that you could give me some pointers on how to get ready to do live events.
Yeah, so it's going to be your own hosted Crappy Childhood Fairy events?
Yeah. Yeah. I have a big YouTube audience. I have a big mail list. And also, it's the sort of, I teach people how to recover from childhood trauma. There's a lot of interest in this. So I think once I book a date, I could sort of put Facebook promotions out there and say, I'm going to be talking about this. I'm going to be teaching techniques on how to calm your triggers. And, people would come. But it's a big thing. You have to have security. You have to know how many people are coming, and I'm a little flummoxed about where to start.
Do you have your content kind of all down of what you're going to talk about? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have your locations already booked?
No, all I know is New York City, London, maybe Oslo.
Okay. Do you have the marketing plan booked?
No.
No. Okay, perfect.
My audience easy to rally.
That's what we're going to do. So, do you have a sense of how many people are going to show up?
I wish I did. I think somewhere between about 50 and 200 easily in both cities. But that's a wide thing. That's a totally different room, right?
It's like how many, so that's based off of obviously your audience size, but you're going to some giant places, so there'll be people who know you, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. It then also comes down to how much you're charging and how, like, what's the vibe that you want to create? Do you want to create an intimate setting where you're coaching people and it feels more like a family, or do you want it to be bigger? So, 100 people, 50 people it's still pretty intimate, but it's not 20 people. Mm-hmm. Where everybody gets a turn to if you're going to be there for 3 hours and you have 20 people, you can go a lot deeper with them and everybody gets a chance to share. 50 or 100 or more, you're not going to have that. It also changes the types of places that you can rent out based off of the size and the requirements. I'm assuming you don't have any crazy like AV requirements. Do you have any AV requirements, or are you just going to get up and speak?
I can just get up and speak. And that's the nice thing about it. I can also scale this very easily to make it work for people. I teach such a simple method. You need a pen and paper. I'll talk about it. I'll take questions. So it'll be simple. And 20 would be beautiful, but I'd like it to be scalable for bigger. I just don't know what's going to happen.
Well, you scale through audience size, or you scale through pricing. Mm-hmm. Right? If you think 20 is really where you want it to be and everybody gets their chance to share their story and there's almost this round circle moment for people to dive into what they're doing, okay, great. Then that becomes $1,000 ticket. Like you just keep increasing the price. You scale through pricing instead of through audience size. It really just depends on the kind of experience that you want to create, versus if you have 100 people in a room, you could still dive into people's stories and do some live coaching, but it's much more of like this, like we're doing a coaching session now, basically, and people are watching and hopefully they learn in the process, but I'm only helping you. I'm not helping everybody one by one and seeing, why are you here? So it's really more what vibe do you want to create? So you could scale through size of audience, which then adds more complexity in terms of the space and the team and everything else, or you scale through pricing.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about having local planners help set these things up?
You probably don't need that much, to be honest, and especially if it's going to be an annual thing that you go back to and keep doing, right? So, I mean, when I did my tour, it was 23 cities in 90 days. It
Mm.
was intense. It's like every 4 days we're in a new city doing another thing. And so we picked the big cities from Toronto to San Diego and back. So Midwest to West Coast style.
Mhm.
Um, it's not too complicated. So here are your options for venues. And because you're only doing two or maybe three spots, it's a lot easier to launch and have fun with it and see how it goes before you commit to doing it, on a bigger scale. Hotels are the easiest ones, are the most expensive. They're set up for it. They're used to it. They can scale, which helps. So if you get more people than anticipated, they have bigger rooms. They have ballrooms. They can have 800 people if you want. They can collapse their rooms. It's so that's the easiest, but they charge like crazy. Everything else that they bring in is also nickel and dime you. So you need
Yeah.
a podium, you're going to pay for that. You need AV, pay for that. You need security, you need whatever. Like they'll add all these things on, if you want it, and it's the benefit is very convenient and it's all taken care of. The downside is going to cost you a lot more, and that will just depend on depend on the city. So New York City is going to be more expensive. Like, do you want to be in New York, or you're going to be a little bit outside? You're going to be across the bridge. Options to consider. Um, Location inside the city really depends on how people will find you. So when I went to Detroit, for example, we did it right in the city, and people driving in from the city were devastated because it was on like a baseball night and there was zero parking. So if you're driving in, forget it. Like if you're driving in New York City, forget it, right? So it's subway. It's got to be super subway accessible, or you do it in Jersey, or you do it in Brooklyn, or you do it in somewhere outside that people can drive to. So how important is that for your audience? But hotel is the easiest, most convenient, and most expensive.
Mhm.
Other options, um, you could look at if there's anything related to, like for me, I would look at entrepreneur groups, and there's entrepreneur centers that they have in different cities. There might be centers related that are on brand or on theme for you,
Mhm.
that maybe they have a space that could host 50 people,
Mhm.
and especially if it ties to their own services somehow, because you're popping in New York, but then you're gone. There's no ongoing with you. So I would speak at a entrepreneur center, and then they would be, hey, there's this group right here. Like, hey, you want to keep meeting people. You want to keep getting local services. Now it's promotion for them as well. So there you can usually get a better rate, and maybe they just give it to you for free if they have the space, and the night open, right? So if you do it after hours, like in evenings when they're usually closed, you just need somebody to be there to open up. And um, so I don't know what kind of community centers or nonprofit or for profit that tie to your theme, to your clientele. Like, where else are they going and hanging out? What other centers, that align with your mission might be a fit.
Mhm.
There's got to be something in New York and in London. You're talking big cities. It's not just some smaller place. So that takes more work to find, as opposed to just, okay, where's the Marriott and let's go there. Budget ideas are churches, YMCA's, uh, comedy clubs actually creates a pretty fun vibe. I did a comedy club in New Mexico, in Albuquerque. It was really hard for us to find a spot in Albuquerque for whatever reason. Not a big city, not as many options. It was on Super Bowl Sunday, so everything was kind of already booked up. So my team said, how about a comedy club? Like, ooh, I don't know about that. But it was actually really cool. Like we got the whole club. It was a really intimate setting. They have a stage. And it was one of my most fun events and kind of a unique vibe where our hotel is very kind of corporate look and feel. So that might be an option. Um, yeah, and then any I would look at where people are putting on meetup groups potentially related to trauma. Where are they hanging out? Where are they going? Um, and connecting with the people who are running those groups. Because you have your own audience, which is great, but local people will know what to do local, right? So before I did my tour, I did a test run uh, more for my team because it was going to be me and my wife, and then my camera guy, and like, can we all get along for 90 days? So why don't we just drive? And it was two of them, camera guys at the time. Why don't we drive to Boston for the weekend and just see how we do? And I had no plan except I put up to my audience, hey guys, I'm coming to Boston. We leave in 2 days. What do I need to do there? Who do I need to speak to? And a bunch of people made some local connections and they put me in touch with Boston Speaks, which is an organization in Boston that hosts speakers.
Mm.
And so it ended up being a great fit where I did a speaking gig there while I was in the city. So who's running the local meetup groups? Who's running the local events? They could plug you into just the local community as well. So you get some people who don't know much about you, or maybe they're discovering you for the first time, but you're kind of put into the right vibe of the right event because they know, or the right venue because they know where to go. That became almost a full-time job for someone on my team, is booking all the venues. But again, it's every 4 days, it's 23 cities. It's a lot of work of going back and forth. You're doing 2 cities, maybe 3. So it's not crazy. You could also even ask your audience, like, hey, what do you guys think? Where's a good place for us to do it and get some feedback? For marketing, YouTube is okay. YouTube sucks for local stuff. So if you made a video saying, hey, doing a tour, coming to New York and London, that video is going to tank on your channel.
Yeah.
Because most people won't care. I mean, people will say, hey, oh, my, amazing. I wish you could come to Toronto or wherever. But because people don't watch it, it just won't get the reach that you need. So we didn't do much on YouTube because we found the videos just didn't go anywhere. Email is great, especially targeted, right? So you can target on your email list, you know where they signed up from. It's geocoded, right? So that's easy to say. You can run YouTube ads geo-targeted to the cities to say, hey, thank you for being a subscriber. You can do 2, subscribers and viewers. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. It's amazing to have you. Listen, I'm coming to New York in a month. I want to meet you, right? It feels so custom. Even leading with that, like, New York, I'm coming to you in 1 month, because they have 5 seconds to skip the ad. And if they just see your face, they might think it's something else, right? But if you say New York, like, oh my gosh, she's talking right to me. Yeah, so pre-roll ads could work super well. Email list targeted to the IP address. LinkedIn worked really well for us. I don't know how big your LinkedIn audience is, but you can sort by location on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is weird. I have so many connections there, but nothing ever happens. If I post something, it's like crickets.
Yeah, I wouldn't. So I don't. LinkedIn had its moment where content was doing super well. It's fallen off where organic reach is seems to be plummeting again. But the origins of LinkedIn is the networking.
Mm-hmm.
So what you could do is message everybody who is in New York, who's connected to you, and say, I'm coming to New York next month, even as an ask of, hey, where do you think I should go? And what ideas do you have maybe for some local marketing? And you start building up some people are usually pretty happy to help. If it's just pure spam, you're like, check out my course or whatever. People disregard that. But if you said, I'm coming to New York next month, I love your feedback, you're much more likely, if somebody sent me that, I'm coming to Toronto next month, I'm much more likely to open it, then check out my latest lead magnet. So that worked well. Facebook local ads worked well. Instagram as well, but Facebook outperformed Instagram but it's ads. So it's a budget. YouTube ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads. And then LinkedIn was direct outreach, and emails were direct outreach.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I think I'm going to make a survey to my peeps, to my list. I have like 60,000 on my list, and do a survey about like, I'm planning a tour. I'd like to come to your city. Tell me, would you come? And I can geo target it.
Yeah, you could pre-sell. Mm-hmm. Hey, if we get 20 people to sign up, I'll come anywhere in America. I don't know if you want to commit to going to Australia or something for 20 people. But anywhere in America, if we get 20 people to sign up, or 50, whatever you want to put your minimum number, I'll come. But yeah, that's a great way to do it, and also builds hype. Here's the thing. I would run. This really helped me. I ran a local. What city are you in?
I live in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I would do a trial run in San Francisco before you go to New York. Mm-hmm. Even if 10 people show up, just to practice because you know what you're doing. You know what you're great at it, and you'll be great regardless. You'll just love on people and create an amazing experience regardless. But it's nice to have a trial run. So I did one in Toronto, my city, and I did it for free in Toronto as a test, and I invited half the people. I had maybe 40 people in the room. Half of them were my friends who are entrepreneurs. I was talking entrepreneurs often in my audience, mm-hmm. and who I told, like, I need you to kick my ass and tell me where it sucked. Like, don't be my friend and say, "Oh, good job," and cheer me on. Like, I know I'll do fine, but like, what did you not like from the thing that we did? And it was a 3-hour session, and then I had half the people just from my list, just from fans who were in the city who I didn't have a lot of context on, and that really helped. One, the feedback, but also just the practice of. I thought it would kind of turn out differently when I did that exercise. Like I didn't get the response I thought I was going to get. And then why are they all asking me about this thing that wasn't even on my agenda to talk about, right? So even a smaller group, just for fun, practice, people will come support, give you feedback before you go off and do the tour, I think would be valuable. Mm-hmm. What else did we do? We made videos on the road. So every day I did an Instagram live. Your tour is not super long, so it's not maybe not as relevant, but every day we did an Instagram live. In every city. So we had a Facebook event page to promote the stop. And one of the best things we did, actually, because people will say, "Oh, I'm interested," but not everybody would necessarily buy a ticket or show up, right? It's just the nature. So what we did was, at the end of my stop, in San Francisco, where we go next? Like we'd go to Sacramento next. I'd be in San Francisco, and it'd be the end of the event, and I would hold up the phone. It's like, "Okay, guys, we're gonna make a video for Sacramento. We're gonna tell them what's about to happen, right?" And so I would make a quick video live inside the Sacramento Facebook event page, because you can do little streams in there. Said, "What's up, Sacramento? We're here in San Francisco," and everybody in chat's like, "Woo!" And everybody's like trying to get in the shot because they want to be on, in the thing. "What did you guys learn here? Did you have fun? What did you learn?" And then I had them yell out whatever their biggest takeaway was, right? And then, I'll see you in 3 days, Sacramento. Let's go. End the video. And it just built up some energy and hype for the next thing that's coming. So, you're not doing that many, you're doing 2, but you could still have fun with it. What's up, New York? Or what's up, London? We're here in New York. I'm coming to you in a week. And it's fun. It was fun to get everybody kind of involved, and they feel like they're joining you on this mission to save the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh,
hold on. Pretty Pretty Pastel Pastry says, I loved your tour. You came to Las Vegas and learned so much. I don't know if you have any thoughts, Pretty Pastel Pastries, from the tour that maybe I missed, from the perspective of an attendee that Anna might learn from. Do you have any quick takes or advice? Something that I did right or wrong. Vegas was the hardest one for me because it was inside a casino, and I was pumped. Like, yeah, we're gonna do a casino. That'll be interesting, because I was kind of tired of just doing hotel room and hotel room and hotel room. So the different venue was fun, but it was there was so much smoke. Even though it was non-smoking, just the smoke was everywhere, and I'm allergic to smoke. Like, I get migraines really quick. And we got there an hour early to set up, and I was worried I might pass out during this thing. And something took over. You get into speaker mode, and it's like, I didn't even notice. It was great. We were doing it. But then at the end of it, I was like sneezing out just nasty stuff. But Vegas was a ton of fun. Anyway, side note, because I said Vegas. Does that help? Like, anything
That's fantastic.
Okay.
I just feel so excited about it. That's a lot of, you coached me a couple of months ago, 6 weeks ago. We had a coaching session, and you had talked to me about like paying more attention to how do I feel around ideas and people. And that was such good advice. And it sounds like it's not rocket science, but to me it was. And I started really paying attention and making different decisions about people. And, I'm always doing hiring, and I had been bringing in people who looked good on paper but didn't feel good for me. So that was changing. And I'm looking at coaching. We talked about coaching, and I kept saying, oh, I can't do that now. I can't do that now. But since I was sick in bed, I'm just like, I would love to coach, and I would love to be out there live. That's what I really want to be doing. I want to be making that connection with people. That's where the energy comes from. It's not a drain. It feeds me. And so I'm really excited, and talking about this, it just sounds doable.
I think you'll do great. I think it'll breed a lot more energy into you, especially just knowing you, but also that you haven't been able to do it. I mean, nobody's been able to do it really over the past couple of years. So just hugging people and seeing people like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Talk to humans again, not over Zoom or Instagram. One other thing that might be helpful is if you have some local volunteers to help you, if there's anybody on your community. One thing we always did was I would give 5 to 10% of the tickets away to people who couldn't afford it. And whether you want to do that or not, it's neither here or there. But I'd have people message me and say, hey, I'm like, if somebody couldn't, my ticket was $50. It wasn't like the most expensive thing to come out to. I think it was $50. But for some people, 50, like, we had homeless people come, but you wouldn't know they're homeless. Like, it's not like they're holding a sign saying I'm homeless. They're not showing up in a garbage bag. Like, the normal humans, but just homeless, and $50 is food for the week, So I'd always give away a certain percentage to people if they really couldn't afford it. And if you had some volunteers who you could start to connect with earlier, like, is anybody who's hardcore in your community?
Yeah, they're already like saying, I'll help.
Yeah. So if you need people to help you set up, or I'd like, just maybe this is just a me thing, but I like kind of knowing a little bit about the people before. So I ran my Thought Leadership Academy in Toronto, where it was up to 15 people at a time would come here and train with me for 3 days. And what I did was, the night before, we had to set up the space, right? I did it at my dance studio here in Toronto, and we had tables and chairs and just set up all the spacing. And randomly, I decided on one of them to say, hey, if you're here early, you're here the night before, and you want to help me set up. I think somebody actually came. Yeah, the first year somebody actually came, and she came early just to find the space, and she helped set up. Like, wow, that was actually really cool. So I put out an email for the next one. If you want to come early and help us set up, half the people who bought the tickets, and they're spending thousands of dollars to be there, they came the day early to volunteer to set up the tables and chairs because of the community, because it's like, we're doing this together, and they feel connected to me, and also wanted to meet the other people. So I really love that, because then when I showed up on day one, I already had a sense of some of the people in the room, and felt a connection already. So it's not just a room of strangers that I'm starting to get to know. So if you had a little ground team, even just one person who you're communicating with and you love, and then you see them the day before, the day of, it just like, this is real. This is happening. This is so exciting. And it doesn't feel like you're doing it all alone. So that's something to think about as possible. You probably don't need a lot of volunteers, especially if it's not a giant event. But that's more just for the energy and the vibe and personal happiness.
Yeah. My husband and my sons who are college age are going to be there, and which is great. They're all like big, strong guys. And the thing about teaching trauma is sometimes, some people who are a little bit off will come in, and I just, it's good to know like somebody's there that could escort people out if there was ever an issue. That would put my mind at ease and feel safe to just relax and start talking, not feel like I have to like mind the room. They'll take care of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like we had zero security issues the whole time. Nobody was, I mean, I guess, I've never had an issue. I've never had an issue with it. My camera guy was a big enough guy, I guess. But it's always been the community vibe. So if there ever was anything, even just the people in the room would help, but I think it's smart. You never know what's going to happen. And if on future ones, you need to hire a bouncer for 3 hours or whatever, like it's not expensive to have somebody come in for a couple hours and be security. You probably don't want anybody who's like super tough and intimidating at the door to make people feel, uncomfortable, but just a little bit of safety, I guess. And it depends on the venue too. Like if you're walking into a hotel, there's a lot more staff. They're not paid to be security for you, but there's a lot more staff and there's a lot more kind of expectation of how you show up, I guess, versus if you're going into a, I don't know, community center or church or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you, Evan. This is great.
Cool. When are you doing it?
It's going to be May 5th, I think, in New York, and then August, maybe 19th in London. I'm narrowing.
Oh, okay. So there's a lot of time then in between.
Lots
okay.
Of time. And then maybe April where I live to get practice.
Yeah. And same thing, just pay attention to how you feel. Honestly, like through all of it, there's a lot of stress and details and all the mechanics, which you'll figure out. But as you go through it, it's like there'll be moments that's like, that was really amazing. I can't wait to do it again. And there'll be some pieces like, oh, you know what? I'm not going to do that next time. But,
well, I got to tell you, it's funny how my whole life has been preparation. A lot of people don't know this. I used to be a comedian in my 20s. I lived in Hollywood. And so for me, it's so natural to get up there and just start talking. And later in life, I was a corporate trainer. I set up all kinds of, I led huge audience, trainings. And so I've had so many opportunities to kind of learn pieces of this job. So I feel pretty confident going into it that I can do it. It's, it's kind of new bringing it together, but I know I can do it. And I think
you can definitely do it. Yeah. Oh, last thought. Are you going to film it?
Yes. So that I support my speaking business.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking business, it might be, there might be components of it that you can put into your training to sell. Maybe not the one-on-one coaching with people unless you have them sign a waiver. Like if you go to Tony Robbins' event and he coaches you, you're signing a waiver right afterwards that they own the content and all that stuff. But that could be potential content that you sell access to, or it could even be bonus. Like if somebody buys your training, then this is for $87 or whatever. It's an add-on training for it. It's also good just to watch yourself back and see like, oh, here's where I struggled and could have done better. Yeah. So are you having a local crew going to film you, or are you going to have your son film you? Or
that's a good question. I own a video production company and I have connections in the US anyways that make it easy. That's a good question. I'll think about that. I'd like to have one of them at least shot professionally. That would
if you're going to use it for your speaker reel, and if you're going to ultimately sell it, it makes sense. The cost makes sense. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. You don't need 14 cameras on you, and just it makes sense because it's gonna give you a lot more of a return. You can use that footage over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you can just hire. You don't have to bring somebody with you from
no, local people.
Yeah, you just get a local person, and you already know what you're doing. Maybe somebody who likes the content. Maybe someone in your audience owns a video production company in New York, and wants to help. But if your son or your husband's filming off of their iPhone, that's great for just watching yourself back. But it's not really something that a speaker agency is going to look at and say, "Oh, she's great."
Yeah. Yeah, and then that means there needs to be like a PA and stuff for at least one of them. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. And maybe that's San Francisco. When I look at the geographical spread of my audience, there is a lot of concentration around me. UK has probably 10% of my audience, but where I live probably has 30%.
So I always double mic'd. I had a mic for the audience and I had a mic for the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So initially my camera guy was a 2-man crew, and just before we left, they broke up their business. So I was like, okay, we're taking one of your guys because that's going to be awkward for 90 days. So it just became a 1-man crew, and then me and Nina. So he brought at least 2 cameras on most of the shoots. And he gave me a box to stand in at the front. It's like, okay, you can stand inside this box. And the wing cameras were a little wider. And then the one that he was actually controlling, he could actually zoom in and out on me. But he always mic'd me up separate. I had a mic in every venue. The smallest one was the Comedy Club in Albuquerque on Super Bowl Sunday, but I still think I had a mic for that one, just for the audience to hear.
Mm-hmm.
You may not need it. It also saves your voice. Even if you have 30 people in a room.
Yeah.
If you're projecting for 3 hours, it just saves your voice, and you're probably going to stick around in the Q&A afterwards. People want to take pictures and more conversations, and so that will burn your voice a bit. But I always double mic'd into the camera anyway.
Yeah.
Because taking the audio from the room into your camera will not give you good quality audio for your speaker reel.
Right. Luckily, I have experience with all of that. I think it'll be worth spending money to get a pro in there. And the nice thing when you have a video production, like here locally, I have one guy who can do all of it, and he'll get like great sound and set up 2 cameras, and one man's itself, and he's got one sort of going around. If I could clone that guy, that would be great. But then that also helps take care of making sure there's sound.
Maybe.
Yeah.
If they bring their own speaker, it does.
Yeah.
But a lot of, like, my camera guy we bought a speaker and took it with us because the venues were sketchy on their AV equipment, and you have to trust it.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have to trust it. So we bought a speaker and brought it with us for every location. And camera people don't often have speakers set up. It's a separate thing. So they might, but I would do the first one. Like if your first one is May in New York, film it so you get a sense.
Yeah.
And you learn, and maybe you don't need to film London, although you're spending all that money to go to London anyway and take your husband and son and all that. It probably makes sense to do it anyway. But anyway, just last thought, because you don't want to look back and say, oh, I wish I filmed that. And we need to see it in Movement Makers. We got to see Anna doing her work. Come on now, we got to celebrate with you.
Yeah, there's Movement Makers in New York who want to come. I would love that.
Actually, I wonder who is in New York from Movement Makers. There's got to be. It's got to be. For sure, there's got to be some people.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Well, thank you, Anna. Congrats. So excited to see you launch this thing. Keep us posted, and happy anniversary for Movement Makers.
Thank you. Bye.
We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.
If you want to see another awesome one-on-one I did with an entrepreneur just like you, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Most people still don't know what an NFT is.
I want to figure out some creative ways to do virtual events.
Just do it and then ask for forgiveness later instead of asking for permission in advance.